Good evening, members.
Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Resources Committee. I am Councillor Peter Hall, and I'm the chairman of the committee. Members and officers have their names in front of them for ease of reference. And then we go on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chairman, I have an apology from Councillor Nottage.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest, members. No. Minutes of the previous meeting. It confirms a correct record of the minutes of the last meeting held on the 5th of December. The leader, Councillor David Flagg, please.
Chairman, if I may, minute 185 states that a member asked how figures for usage of the shopping car parks in Highcliffe fared against last year's figures. A comparison would be drawn up and sent to members. I don't recall receiving anything thus far. Is it possible the officers can advise where we are with that, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Daniel, can you help with that, or will you get an answer for us?
Yeah, I'll have to look into that and I'll make sure that gets sent out shortly.
Thank you very much indeed. So can we now accept the minutes?
Yep. Accepted.
Proposed by Councillor Cornwell and seconded by the Vice Chairman. Thank you very much. And we take a vote on it. Thank you. Update, please. Mr. Dan Povey.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. So as it says, the purpose of the report is really just to update members with the status of the various schemes that comprise the capital programme. Officers have gone through each scheme and had a look at as to the status, whether they think it will be either complete or contractually committed come the 31st of March, in which case it would be green, amber where there's some certainty, or red where the project won't have been contractually committed. As members can see from the appendix, the vast majority of schemes are in fact green, which is good news. It's still, I would say, a challenging task to perhaps deliver all of that work, but officers have gone through each scheme one by one and have come up with a forecast that you see in the appendix. There's only one red scheme on there at the moment, which relates to the Christchurch Quay Riverside wall repairs, and I think the reason from speaking with the property manager why that's red is they've had various appraisals and looked at various solutions with the various statutory bodies like the Environment Agency and Natural England, and I think there have been several different solutions and designs, but I think due to the nature of the work, they don't think they'll be able to get that one started by the 31st of March. I think they're going to need to have a look at the time scale and potentially the budget for that work as well. But that's the only red one on there. In terms of the amber ones, probably the larger ones that are amber relate to affordable housing stroke temporary accommodation, and I think the reason why they are actually amber is we've had some offers accepted for some properties. I won't go into too much detail in open session, but we've had some offers accepted. One of them is in the stage of exchanging the contract documentation. The other one has had the offer accepted, but of course, we are at the mercy really of the timescale of other people's lawyers and whether the sellers are going to follow it through or not. Buying property is not always as straightforward as one might assume, and from speaking to the estates officer, that's the reason for why they are amber. That's probably enough of an introduction, Chairman. I'll take any
members' questions. I've got the leader, Councillor David Flagg, you indicated first.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, my concern is looking at the rag ratings on the side. My concern is the one that is highlighted in red. Is the officer able to tell us, will we be in a position whereby we can commit to this contract at all between now and the 31st of March.
My understanding from speaking with the officer who's looking after the scheme is probably not. Hence why it is red. But I would add all of the schemes that are ongoing will be amalgamated into the Bournemouth Christchurch Ample Capital Programme, and they will be in the budget report that goes to the Shadow Council in February with the capital programme. But I think, in answer to the question, I don't think they can commit that it will be contractually committed.
Councillor Liesl Smith, please.
As regards the affordable housing and the temporary accommodation, if we're at a point where we have sale agreed but not exchanged, will those still go forward, or will we be pulling out of those purchases?
If they weren't actually completed by the 31st of March, well, my understanding is we wouldn't be pulling out of them at all. We would view to going through to the completion with them, and as I say, anything that isn't totally bottomed out would form part of the initial BCP capital programme. But I think they would be viewed as a work in progress project.
So, Mrs. Margaret Phipps, please.
Going back to these properties that are being purchased or attempting to be purchased, I don't know if you know what sort of figure they're likely to be, because presumably you're not spending all of the money. So there's still going to be monies left, presumably, because we've got here nearly 600,000 on affordable housing, and then 565,000 on temporary accommodation there. So do we know how much is likely to be left over when these properties are eventually purchased or committed to be purchased, and what happens to that money?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. So I think where we've got things that are sort of under offer, if you like, they're mainly coming out of the temporary accommodation pot, the 565. And my understanding is there will be the majority of that, but probably leave 100 or so thousand, 100 to 200,000 of that. That would carry on into the capital programme of the BCP Council. With the affordable housing, which is perhaps a little bit more challenging, actually when you look at that budget, over 300,000 of that is actually funded from Section 106 monies that's earmarked for that purpose. So I think, again, it would go forward into the BCP programme, but the fact is that a lot of the funding allocated to that probably couldn't be allocated to anything else anyway.
Vice Chairman, Councillor Trish Jameson, please.
Thanks, Chairman. Just asking about where it says budget profile, the figures in them, 2019, 20, 2021. These are amounts that are actually committed then, and that they will be carried forward and they will go on to the capital programme of the BCP, I should imagine.
Yes, that's quite right. So I think the report that's being drafted at the moment for BCP Council focuses on them very years, on 2019, 2021 and 21-22, of which this council schemes will be a part, because it assumes that the 18-19 projects will be delivered. But of course, as is usual practice, any slippage on the capital programme follows into the next year.
Councillor Mrs. Liesl Smith, please.
Sorry, can I take you back to the affordable housing? Apologies. If the S106 is protected because it's S106 money and it's going to go into a Bournemouth, Paul and Christchurch S106 fund, is that ring fence to be spent in Christchurch, or does it go into a general fund?
I suspect we'd have to look at the individual Section 106s, but it could well be that it isn't ring fenced. I wouldn't like to say that it was.
Are there any other questions, members? What I'd like to do is ask a question, if I may, on the Regent Centre. It does concern me with the price that's down to 550,000, with estimates coming in higher than we anticipated. Have you, at the moment, sent any tenders out at the moment? Because it'd be nice to know if we've had tenders coming in that price range, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I haven't got that answer on the top of my head, but I can speak to John Ross tomorrow and get that information sent out. Yeah, I can I'll ask John to update all members of this committee.
Thank you very much indeed. No other questions? So we just note the report. We're not making any decisions. Members are happy to note the report. Thank you very much. The next item. Thank you very much, Mr. Povey. Brilliant. We've got item 5, representative of a meeting on behalf of the council. No written reports, no. The forward plan. No, we haven't got. No, that's well. Right. So the exempt item, we don't need to. Because no one else here, so I need to note. And I believe Councillor Mr. Smith, you'd like to make a comment on it.
I just wanted to comment that the person who signed in the middle at the back of this contract, that position doesn't exist in our council.
Thank you. And our secretary will make sure that's corrected. I think that's the end of the meeting, and thank you very much for attending.